Rise and Fall.
These guys invented and market Mambosocks, and as Tony Cox reports, seeing is still not believing.
Sports fashion. If you're going to play the game, you'd better dress the part.
I have different sponsors that clothe me out, but for head protection and warmth, I wear Mambo socks.
Mambo what?
Mambo socks.
Of course he wears Mambosok. These days, who doesn't? What do you think this is?
An apron.
It's a bag, I guess.
You know what this is?
Bathing suit. I bet you it's a hat.
Yes, it is. And whether you're on the slopes of Colorado or the streets of Seattle, you're bound to see trend-setting youth donning one of the most bizarre fashion styles since the bell-bottom.
All right, welcome to episode number 2 of the Rise and Fall. I'm Jeff. We're here up at Baldface, my spot, and I'm glad to have Tom Bunnell here today. We've got some delicious, it looks like shortbread, caramel, pecan pie bars.
Nice treats.
Yeah, I got some coffee here.
Coffee.
We're enjoying the view. You've been up for 3 days now?
This was the third day, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of a little tough out there.
It's been a little spicy.
Yeah.
But you always find fun at Baldface, that's for sure.
Or sometimes you find the devil 10 centimeters underneath.
The devil's backbone lies beneath, for sure.
But we're taking a little time this morning to talk about Mambosock, iconic brand from the 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And
1997.
90 to 97.
Yes. Almost on the nose.
My God. Early, big brand, burned really bright when I was coming up in snowboarding. Mambosock was sponsoring movies, had an iconic team of riders. So we're going to talk about the rise and fall of Mambosock today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Tom also has a podcast that he's put out in the past, Boots Off. I've been on it. It's really hilarious. Lots of funny things, secret words, secret handshakes.
Lots of beer drinking.
Lots of beer drinking tricks in it. So that's pretty fun to watch.
Yep.
Tom's a school teacher now.
Yep, I'm a high school teacher.
In Bend, Oregon.
Yep. I was high school teacher for 20 years. I took 2 years off, and then we moved to Bend. And life was wonderful, you know, getting those 100-day seasons in.
Yeah.
And then my lovely wife, Carla, who's much wiser than I, said, come on, man, we got to, and I went back to teaching.
Nice. So, and what grades are you teaching?
I teach 9 through 12.
So cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's, yeah, I love it.
They're lucky to have you. Guy with your experience and outlook, be a great teacher compared to some of them that I see. I'm sure you're a breath of fresh air for the kids.
We get along.
All right, let's get into it. Mambosock. I start the podcast by kind of asking a few questions like, where did the name come from? What's the origin of the name? When did it start? Some of that stuff. Let's talk about the beginning of it.
Yeah, so 1989, 90-ish, my best friend in the world, guy I grew up with since we were little guys, Dan Horde. We always wanted to start a business together. We always talked about it when we were kids. And we were traveling, and he needed some shorts. So he cut his pant legs off, you know, like people do to make shorts. And being, you know, hey, stuck pant legs on our heads, great, you know. And and so that was funny. And I came back home, and I was bartending. I got this package in the mail, and it was one of the pant legs. And Dan had sent it. And he said, when I get home, he was traveling around the world. And he said, when I get home, I want to see that you have come up with a hat based off of this, a version of this that we could. And so I was like, okay, man, pressure's on. So my sister was a seamstress, you know, great. And I went and talked to her, and she was like, yeah, we can give it a go. And so we made a couple funny prototypes. And I thought, well, okay, these work. Yeah, this will work. So Dan comes back. He's like, did you make it? Did you do it? And I'm like, yeah. And I whipped out these, you know, prototypes, and, you know,
prototype cut off pant
legs. They turned in. We put elastic on the bottom of them, and, you know, we just put some funky materials, and that was it. But there's a bunch that goes in between till we really kicked off.
Yeah.
We kind of like kept all the fabric under our bed, and we'd pull it out and we'd go, should we do this? No. We pull it, put it back. Should we do this? No, it's stupid. Like, this is dumb. Well, we just said one day, we're going for it. Let's do it. And we told our friends, we're doing it. And we went and got a business license. We thought we were all fun and cool. And we made up this silly hat with the rope through it that was kind of, you know.
The rope was like at the bottom, like the drawstring.
Yeah, on the drawstring, on the elastic. And we had 1,000 of them made. And we had 1,000 of them made by this Vietnamese couple. They made them. They whipped them out. Boom. No problem. We tried to sell those damn things for months, and I'm talking months. We would go to events. We would stand out and say, hey, get your Mambosock. People are like, what the hell are you guys doing?
And you're thinking snowboard, like you were in the snowboard club. You were just anywhere.
We didn't care.
Peace Festival, downtown, Kirkland, whatever.
We'd go to every single event, this, that, the other thing. We didn't care. We'd try so hard. We drove from Seattle to San Diego and back and went to every bike shop, snowboard shop, surf plate, and they would just go, what?
How much did they cost?
Well, $10.
$10 wholesale, $20 retail.
No. $5 for us. We made them for about $4.50, $5, and we sold them for $10. And you know, we failed miserably.
How many of the 1,000 did you sell on that first road trip up and back?
That would be 0. Not one.
Did it have a name?
So that was funny because we didn't know what to call it. And so Dan was like, oh, like festive, those ladies who have the fruit on their head, like doing the mambo. And that's like a sock for your head. So we tried to trademark mambo sock. Got nixed. So we were like, what do we do? And so we just took out the C, stuck the words together, and Mambosock, and it doesn't mean anything.
Mambosok.
Mambosok. And then that logo, when I was bartending, this guy Greg Hickman, rest in peace, was a graphic designer. He said, "Let me make your logo," and so that logo became really, really.
Well, if you can see it in the camera, there it is.
Yeah.
Here, I'll put it right in front of this camera here. Mambosock in USA. Very cool. How old were you when you started with your sister?
23.
Holy shit.
23. And so the classic thing is that we couldn't sell them for anything. And so I'm working behind the bar at this bar in Seattle called the Roanoke, and I was like, how do we do this? And my buddy Ted, Ted Irwin, was an old rep for K2. And Ted and I were bartending, and he goes, you should just bring them in and let's just sell them from behind the bar. 1,000 Mambosocks in 2 weeks.
To drunk people.
That
was the market.
That was the market. So we made money off drunk people. And
you sold it for $10 each?
$10 each.
And they were like weird patterns, different kind of.
We'd go into fabric stores and they're like, oh no, they're here. And we just buy all these bolts of fabric.
Okay, sick.
Yeah, so that was crazy. And Dan came back. He was in China. He came back. He's like, did you do anything with them? I'm like, oh boy. Yeah, this is going big. And then we met John Logic. And John Logic, Snowboard Connection, we lied to him. We said, hey.
I told him lots of lies.
Yeah. We said, hey, we're in town for a day. We just want to maybe come by and see if you like these hats we got. And he's like, yeah.
This is John Logic at Snowboard Connection, down on Alaskan Way, under the double-decker freeway.
Viaduct. Yeah. So we walk in there, and John is sitting there, and, John's a kook, right?
John's like Johnny Fever on WKRP. I always picture him as that. He has that kind of, edge.
And he was a DJ.
Yeah.
Yeah. At K-Rock, and then he did a little stint up in Seattle. And he owned Snowboard Connection. He's oh man, the guy warms my heart.
We got to get John on the.
What he did for the company was crazy. So he was like, oh yeah, I'll take some of those butt stain. They look like those butt stain hats, And we're like, oh,
Thanks.
And
how many do you want?
And he goes, I'll take. I'll take some on consignment. How about that? I'll take 20 of them. And he goes, but there's one thing you got to do. And we're like, what's that? He goes, you got to sponsor that guy right there who's behind the counter, Luke Edgar.
Yeah, Luke.
And he goes, and this kid right here. And he points to a picture of this guy riding off a tree limb. And we're like, oh, okay, who's that? Matt Goodwill. Boom.
Heavy duty.
Boom. That was our first introduction to snowboarding.
Okay.
Then we went up to, and all the craziness started rolling. So, and then we learned up at the U.S. Amateurs. We stopped trying to sell them out of our bag. We threw them down on the floor where the kids all came. All the best riders in the country were there. Liska, you name it. Russell Winfield, everybody. And they're just grabbing hats. We're like, go ahead, take one. They take them. They all go back to their local snowboard shops. We're in the snowboard industry.
So let's talk about that for a minute. We jumped through a lot of things right there, and I'm trying to keep this podcast under one snowmobile ride up here, 40 minutes or so.
That's what I want to do.
So it was a slow burn with a lot of driving up and down the coast. And then it kind of puffed really fast by selling 1,000 of them in the bar. And then Logic and Snowboard Connection says, let me take 20 of them on consignment. And then the fire starts getting a little more momentum.
Yeah.
You felt that, and you cranked up production, and you got them into the right people's hands.
Yeah.
Everyone from Uncle Russell, Nick Parada, Goodwill, these guys,
Those
Lou.
guys, you know, and there was this kid in San Francisco who liked them, loved them. And he was schlepping them around on the street. And this kid happened to have the name of Noah Salasnek.
Oh, Noah.
Yeah. So Noah's out there schlepping them around, and, you know, he was one of the first guys we sponsored. And so those guys, then it turned into Parada, then it turned into, you know, Goodwill.
Because Noah was kind of like where Noah went, all Tahoe followed.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And
Such a great dude, great skater,
yeah,
great snowboarder,
Yeah.
very influential.
double threat.
The most influential, maybe.
Incredible.
Yeah.
He was a super mellow guy. And, but, you know, that was big. And then
those guys all had, like, being bald, you know. I not only did I look up to those guys for their athleticism and their personalities, but they all had great hair.
yeah,
Back in that day.
at first.
Yeah, back in that day. And their hair would, like,
Come to the top.
out through the top of the...
Parada for sure.
Big time.
Like, he loved that. And then Goodwill had long hair.
Goodwill had, like, curly long...
Jax had a big head of hair.
Texas, big everything.
Yeah,
Everything's big.
He's a big. It is big. Yeah, the Texas.
Yeah, that's what I really remember is all those guys on those really long snowboards, like 178s, 185s, with their Mambo socks on, and their like military grade outerwear that was like made for Baker being rained on.
Totally.
Amazing. All right, so then all your guys go to these shops all over the place in their individual towns, and then do the shops start calling you?
Yes.
And they're like, what's Mambosock? How do I get some?
Yeah, we got these guys like Deliskas were great, you know, Jay wore them, and
their shop was Borderline?
Borderline.
Yeah.
And so they bought them, and then we all, you know, these guys would go back to the East Coast, and it just was craziness. I mean, that part, and the thing that was kind of interesting about that was, come on, it was a stupid hat. Let's be honest.
Easy now.
Well, no.
Easy on it. Be kind to yourself.
No,
Where
but
else?
it was it was a wonderful, fun thing, right? And people and it was at a time where it could be successful.
Yeah.
And then, but we had to get into that. We had to get into the clothing industry.
So you had the hats going.
Yeah.
Let's just keep on those for a quick second.
Sure.
You did your first batch was 1,000. What was your like second batch? What?
2,000.
2,000.
4,000, 6,000.
You just kept kind of exponentially.
Every time.
We're going to get back to that. So in the first year or so, after the initial boom, like what did your numbers look like after that?
You ready?
Okay, so you went from 1,000.
1,000 hats.
Right, people started getting them in their hands. You gave those away.
Lots of
Logic gets behind it. Some shop owners get behind it,
and a whole bunch of other.
Maybe they start showing up in magazines. A couple of movies, Hard, Hungry, and the Homeless. I remember guys.
Yeah, we sponsored Pocahontas.
Yeah,
you know, Mac Dog.
Mac Dog, Shirley.
And so we sponsored a couple.
So it goes from 1,000 to 2,000 to 4,000 to
$1.1 million in year one.
And that was making $5 per Mambosok.
No, we were rolling a lot of them at 10.
Okay.
You know, and then the first retailer.
This is 1990.
91.
$1 million is that's still a lot of money, but back then,
it's insane.
That's crazy money.
Cut off pant leg. Snowboarding.
Any skiers jumping on board? Any
big? Oh, I mean, come on. We had
Rob Delorier. Did that guy wear? Did I see some of those guys?
But Seth Morrison.
Oh, Seth was into it.
Greg Harms.
Yeah.
Tom Davis.
Yeah.
You name it.
It bridged.
Oh yeah, big.
One of the few brands in that era.
Robbie Capel. We had an ad in Snowboarder. Our rep said, "Yeah, would you guys do a ski ad in Snowboarder?"
You had reps.
And yeah, we did have reps, but we had so our ad rep at Snowboarder.
Oh yeah.
Ben, I forget his name, and Steve Casimiro was totally psyched about us doing one too. And so we're like, yeah, we'll do it. And it said, "Remember your roots," and it had Robbie Capel, and he had the Mambosock patch on the back. And we got shredded by people because back then, remember the fight,
fuck
this ski fuck, and we got crushed by a couple of shops. We're like, fuck you guys, and we're like, well, fuck you, because you know what? In a few years, and those people are right back on board. Boom. So pretty cool.
Okay, so we're cranking through. Let's talk about what else do I have? Okay, so we're establishing that this thing was like an idea, and then it came together with some friends and your sister, and then Ted got involved, Luke got involved, John Logic got involved, then some team came on. You want to just hit me quick with like name dropping some team members that were on it right at that on the rise up?
Luke, Goodwill, Tex, Noah,
all of
Parada.
Farmer, was he running?
No, Farmer was always in the scene, but he wasn't. Way later on, I think.
He had great hair too, though.
Morgan LaFont.
Morgan, yeah. Underrated female pioneer.
Insane. And a super cool gal. And that was fun for us because, we were super fresh to the whole thing. And just, they were
It was really tied to K2 in a lot of ways, too.
They were super helpful.
Yeah, because Ted and Luke definitely went on to
Haley.
There, and Haley.
Ted, Luke, Haley, Brent.
Yeah.
Brent was a big supporter of it. Like, he wanted to, be, they put us...
When we were doing the K2 Rainier climbs, Mambosock was a part of that.
For sure.
In my foggy memory.
Dan would go on all those.
Right.
But that was a really cool relationship for sure.
Okay, so now you got a real business. You got $1 million coming in. Now, so we've had our meteoric rise.
Yeah.
And now we are planing out. At some way, did you have a business plan? Did you have an idea, or you're just going to keep trying to produce as much?
We were chasing it. We were chasing it the whole time.
Did it go to Europe and Japan and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, Japan was really big.
So those were like big jumps.
Big jumps. The Japan piece we'll talk about it later. But Japan, Europe was fine, but Japan was massive.
But those are all of a sudden you're getting orders for 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000.
Oh yeah, so we would ship them in fish toast.
Things?
No, the burly waxed stuff. We used to have them in my basement where we started, and we'd have them filled, and we get these insane orders for the whatever, something in Finland or whatever, and we'd have to pack these giant totes, and you don't just throw that in a UPS truck. So these semi trucks were coming to my neighborhood and stopping in front of our house in Kirkland, Washington, and some people...
You're selling semi-trucks of these things to...
not filling the full semi-truck, but putting the big boxes on it to get them out. And there was neighbors who were like, what is going on over there? Something's happening there. And this nosy neighbor went to the city. They put up one of those signs saying you got to have a community meeting to make sure that you're not operating a business, blah, blah, blah. So we bailed and went downtown Seattle and had a really cool warehouse-like place.
So you started renting an office and kind of going to work. You were going into work every day?
Every day.
This is my job now?
This is my job. And we used to have these super...
And you're how old here? 25?
24, 25.
And going to work every day and calling Japan. And what do they need?
Crushing it. My wife, Dan... All our employees were friends.
Right. Yeah,
friends or family. My little baby Max was running around in a thing pulling invoices out of the, we're like, God, get that guy out of here, but then he'd sleep in the big bins of fleece, like a little baby. Yeah.
You remember those days, right? The hardest days are also the ones that you look back at.
Now he's 30.
Crazy. All right, so here we are. We're cranking along. You're all of a sudden a worldwide brand. You're a pretty iconic keystone brand in snowboarding, as I recall. There was the big manufacturers, but I remember Mambosock being one of the first companies that was kind of not really making snowboards or bindings or boots, but that was along with the industry,
Probably because we bought so many people beer.
Yeah, right? So buying beer, being cool, maintaining relationships.
We're cool. I think we were nice.
You were pretty cool then, too.
I've got a cool name.
But you're old. The old guys are cool. We got cool stories to tell.
Yeah.
So in that growth era, you rent the office. What were some of the challenges? What were some of the funnest times? You got regrets? Were there things you would do over looking back at that initial, you're planing out, you're in an office, you're going to work, you're realizing this is your life, your job?
We weren't planning out, though, at that time. We were still growing because we got into the clothing, and the clothing was really cool. Some of the fabrics we used were
throw those over here, Dusty.
We made, there's a company No Billy No, our good Ross and Tuna, and they made the fleece shorts, and we ran with it after they stopped. So we kind of snuck them off of our buddies, but we blew these things. I can't even tell you how many pairs of those we sold.
I noticed the sizing says biggest.
Bigger, biggest, and huge. And then we made these spring snowboarding shorts that had big Cordura knees and butts.
Oh, yeah.
And the size on those were the chubby and the tubby.
It's pretty sick too, because it's just like some kind of hippie rope with a barrel lock on
So
it.
we kept that. That was the rope that was on the hat. So we had a little bit of
tie-in.
Yeah, a little brand identity.
So how big did the clothing get?
The clothing got really big, and the clothing became, we had really cool, funky materials. Like our reps that would come in from the fabric manufacturers, they didn't care. They'd show us like stuff for upholstery for couches, and we're like, that'd be a cool freaking jacket or something. So we made all these cool jackets.
Yeah.
I have totes and totes in my garage, and I'm never going to let them go. People send me like old stuff.
Right.
I got jackets. This gal sent me this sweater the other day that was just what? Like, I didn't remember.
I had a Mambosock hoodie that was super sick. It was a great fabric. I wore that thing till there were holes in the
Yeah.
It's like olive green. It was like
nice.
knit. It was sick.
I was at a trade show, and Carhartt was behind us. I was in Reno, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to go talk to these guys. I went back, and I said, hey, we've got a snowboard team, these guys. And the guy's like, yeah. And I said, I was wondering if maybe we could get some of these field jackets and embroider our logo on the back for our team. And he was like, why would you want to do that? It's not your brand. I said, yeah, but Carhartt's a great brand. And he was like, let me call my sales manager. The next day he comes back and he goes, we'd love to do that. He goes, but I need to get a picture. And I was like, well, okay. So we gave those to all those dudes, and they loved them.
Yeah.
Right? What a fun little collab that we didn't even know we were doing back in the day, but it was cool.
Is that where the Baker winners get an embroidered Carhartt? You think there's some?
Well, I guarantee you, we're doing Carhartt before they were doing.
That's pretty sick. Because I know that, like, if you win,
You get the.
that's like a big deal.
Yeah,
Stomping around Baker in your Carhartt.
I still have mine. I mean, like, I would be amazed. There was only 10 of those or 12 of those, and dudes who were wearing them was like, whoa.
Sick.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're cranking along. You do $1 million.
We're doing a lot.
Let's continue to talk about the Rise. Then we're not playing again.
So we're doing clothes, and the clothing is.
We're 2 years, 3 years into it now.
3 years into it. This is like 93. I mean, you want to talk about the big
Explosion.
whopper. I mean, now we're on national TV shows. We're in magazines, tons of magazines from around the world, and blah blah blah, and these fashion magazines to, you name it. We were in it, and Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal?
Then we were on the cover of Inc. magazine.
Inc. magazine?
Yeah.
Slow month, or what was going on? Dude,
We crushed it.
you were exploding.
Oh,
And you were representing the boom of snowboard.
yeah.
Because the story was probably interesting in that you started this in your house,
Yeah, my basement. Yeah.
and you were following this explosion of snowboarding, and doing a good job.
Yeah,
Clearly.
and that's it just got really crazy. The media stuff and everything. It was just I can't explain what we were doing. We were two guys, and like we're traveling around, partying, having like the SIA shows and Outdoor Retailer and ASR and all that stuff. And I'm seeing all these legends in other sports that I was just like, and then sponsoring the King of the Hill and the Extremes and all that.
Yeah.
And sponsoring Craig's camp, and Kelly Joe was running that for him.
Camp of Champions in Whistler.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I have a really fun story to tell about Craig. So he's my idol, right? In snowboarding, big time. I always love him. So, we're up at Valdez, and Goodwill had just won. And so, Mambosock's being repped really well. And Jay obviously is up there being, showing everybody his home. And, like Pennywise and Offspring are playing in the lobby of the Totem because we're shut down for a day. Just crazy stuff, right? Well, I'm sitting there in this room at the party at the Valdez Convention Center, and someone comes and says, hey, Tom, I want to introduce you to someone. And I go in, and there's Craig, and I'm like, damn, love it, man. And they're like, hey, Craig, this is Tom. Tom is Craig. He's like, hey, Tom, it's really nice to meet you. And I'm like, wow, it's nice to meet you, man. And he goes, I just want to say thanks for what you guys have done for the camp. He goes, it's great. We love it. sponsors and people are helping us out. I'm like, no problem, And he goes, can I be honest with you? And I said, sure. He goes, I don't wear those things. And I'm like, I don't wear a lot of them either. And he goes, but I just want to tell you that I do use them for oil rags. Okay, there's my idol.
He was an honest guy.
Yeah, but that was my one great encounter with Craig. But,
Craig also had great hair.
yeah, you did.
Maybe, another one of his many positive attributes. I mean, that guy had a hell of a head of hair. And he would chop it off.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden it was back a month later.
He'd bring it tight.
He kind of made guys like me feel a little like, why does that guy get all like,
Good hair.
like wow, what happened there?
Yeah,
That's weird. All right, so Mambosok's just crushing. You're meeting Craig up in Alaska. He's using your product as an oil change rag. I mean, what could be a greater endorsement?
Incredible.
Really?
Incredible.
Than a great guy with a great method, great style, using your great product to change oil in his probably shitty Subaru or something back then. I don't know. Probably won it in a contest or something.
Right.
So what's next? Now we're cranking along. We're enjoying being in business. How old are you now?
Greg, 24, 25.
25.
I'm married now.
Yeah, got a kid, sleeping in the thing.
Yeah, and just all crazy stories. I mean, crazy stories of like how the Nordstrom buyer saying you need to make clothes. I'm like, I don't make clothes. So, right, doing great. This is '94. And we got stories to tell, everything, and we're shipping to Japan. We're crushing in Japan. We would get these pre-orders. This is for those of you listening and starting a business. Do not do this. Do not do this. Do you hear me? Make sure that you protect yourself properly. So we would get the order placed. We build it, and and then they'd come down and pay a check, give us a check. And then we'd ship it, and we'd have this big party. We'd take everybody out.
So you didn't say, give me 50% to buy the material, and then the other 50% before we ship.
No. So the beauty of it was we get this one big check, and then it would fund our next season. It's incredible. So these are like $250,000 orders, right? So we get 2 of them a year from Japan, and then one
From distributors.
Yeah. So there's one distributor, and then so we go 250, and 90 were usually the number, 60 or 90 on a little one. So we build it. It was great. So we're in third year of this. Got the order, build it, and when we sell to Japan, you didn't have to have all the cool, dark, grungy colors. You could get Hello Kitty, pastel, whatever. Super cheap. So your margins were massive, right? And so we'd load these up with all these shitty colors, and blow it out. And so it's the day we got the boxes all packed at the middle of the warehouse, and we call them. We're like, we're ready. Bring the check. And they're like, don't ship it. We're like, whoa, what? And they're like, no, don't ship it. Onami is done. Blue Link's done. We're like, how do we not, this is a big hit. It doesn't matter if you're in the $4 million range in sales or whatever, you take a $250,000 hit, it's going to hurt. Right. So we were like, wow, first chink in the armor. We had to sell all that crap dime on the dollar crap and just blow it out of the warehouse. And people are like, what are these colors, And we're like, oh, no. So we managed to kind of get through that. But we took a season off. We didn't go. We called all our reps at the shows and said, we're keep our spot. We want our booth space. We're going to come down and talk to all our suppliers and stuff. And we did. And the one thing that Dan and I did, which I'm actually really proud of, is we were really honest. We were very honest. We paid our bills on time, everything. Yeah. And so we came back, put out a new clothing line. It was killer. We were going to have probably one of our best years. We had some entertainment for buyers and stuff. And so
what's that mean, entertainment for?
Well, there was some people who were interested in purchasing the company. And to be honest with you, that's a lesson learned, real big lesson learned. If you got a good opportunity to sell your company for a nice chunk of dough, dang.
That was somebody looking at it and say, you've got this much in sales, you've got this much in inventory, let's package this whole thing up. And you guys walk away or you stay for a year.
Come in and work for us or whatever. Yeah. So, and that's too bad.
Why'd you say no?
Because, when you're playing blackjack and, the dealer's showing a 6 and you got 10,
yeah,
may as well go for it. You're kind of rolling your head.
But the whole industry was about to take a big stutter step.
Yeah,
whole Japanese
which you didn't know.
Market, right?
And so that happens. And we're like, whoa, so we come back, we're doing great and everything. But now it's like, we either got to sell this or bring in an investor, because we started out of our pockets.
Right.
With $500 each. And Dan kind of threw money in as we went to help it. So it was self-funded. And our bankers, lawyers, accountants were like, you guys you can't do this. You know, you got to you got to bring somebody in. You don't want to have another one of those hits. We're like, okay. So we went around, we talked to K2, we talked to, all these different companies, and it just wasn't happening. It was slowing down we needed to focus on just being, yeah. And we got a call. Got a cryptic call from somebody saying, hey, I heard you're interested in selling and or get an investor or whatever. And we're like, oh, yeah. What's your name? Stephen Bauer. Remember that name. If you see this guy, you have free reign. Okay? Stephen Bauer. Whoa, Devil's Backbone just rose.
Okay. Anybody else named Stephen Bauer? I apologize if you get pushed down the stairs or thrown up here. But there's one Stephen Bauer out there that we got to watch out for.
So we, this is where this is the regret. Long story short, we bought into his BS. We went down, met him in Chicago, had a 15-hour conversation overnight. Things look great. Manufacturing in Mexico would take us out of the thing. He'd do all the manufacturing. We also there was a golf apparel line that was going to be connected to it. Things were going to be great. We were going to be sales and marketing and just be the Mambosock guys, which we loved doing, was what was one of the funnest parts about it. And so we have this big order with an outdoor store, and it's 3 items, Berber, like this cool material. It's a Henley pullover and a hoodie. Just crush it. Margins, like big orders, like a $3,000 order or something like that, or to start. And the story
3,000 piece.
3,000 pieces.
Yeah.
And the story how we got that order is crazy. We went to New York, Manhattan with the garment racks, running through Manhattan, just selling these guys and bullshitting this other company and selling $180,000 order of the original Mambosock to Foot Locker. Like, what? And we're just like, this is insane. This is like towards the end. So they keep hammering us, like, we need the order, we need the order, we need the order. I'm like, we're trying, we're getting it, we're doing it. And I'm calling Steven, like, come on, I want to go down to the warehouse, make the samples. Wasn't going to make them in Seattle and cheat. What was the product going to be? I wanted it to be made in Mexico. No, come on, bro, it's fine, don't worry about it, you'll be fine, we'll get it taken care of. They call with the threatening phone call and said, listen, if you don't get it to us by next week, we'll get this. And I call Steven, he's like, fine, go. And I'm like, boom. So I get on a plane. We don't have time for this story, but it's called 36 Hours in Mexico. Thought I was going to die. Thought I was going to get killed. I get picked up. After 2 days of BS, lies, and deceit, I'm sitting in a hotel. These phone calls, I finally get picked up in this Breaking Bad white beat-up station wagon, driving with a dude who thinks I'm going to kill him. I think he's going to kill me. We get to the border. We go in. Juarez, Mexico. Ever been there? It's a great place. Yeah. Roll up to the warehouse. You just got to make these samples, right?
Yeah.
All the lies are happening. It's Jonathan, this big 6'4" bilingual dude, is like, hey, Tom, how's it going? Phone rings. It's Bauer on the other line. Don't you fucking talk to anybody. And I'm like, what was that? Tell me what that was. That was him. Craziness. Boom. Power goes out. And I mean, you want a story? This thing is crazy. Two times the power goes out. I think I'm going to die. And seeing that they got these 1950 Singer sewing machines. I'm like, you can't make clothes with that stuff. Finally get them to take me upstairs to cut the thing. Power goes out. They don't have any of the fabric. They don't have the buttonholers. They got any machines. They can't do anything. I'm like, oh my God, this is. Right. So I go down. I'm like, what is happening? Come on, man. Bauer's calling. You guys don't have anything. Those machines can't do shit. And I'm crushed. I'm like, please. And they're like, do you want to know why we didn't pick you up yesterday? And I'm like, yeah, why? And he's like, because the federales were taking all the machines. They confiscated all the machines. They were trying to shut the power down while I was there and stuff. And I'm like, no. I mean, I'm like crushed. Like, it's over. I'm like, well, how is this going to work? And he goes, well, they're going to make it in the prison. And I'm like, the prison? What? He's like, the Juarez prison. And I'm like, no. So he was going to make it on the cheap, skim the top off, and then ship it up, And so this whole thing explodes in my face. They're like, what do you want to do? I said, go grab a disposable camera. We took pictures, thank God. And they drove me to El Paso airport, and I vividly remember me and 3 Mexican guys sitting on the sidewalk, just like, I wish someone filmed it, because it was the most bummed out 4 human beings. Got in the airport, called Dan. I said, we're done. And he's like, what? Wait, no, what do you mean? And we're done. Came back, got a lawyer, went through this crazy legal thing. Bauer calling us with creepy messages like, you pussies, I know you're there. And all, like, what? Calling my mom and all this stuff. Crazy. And then we sold it. We went into receivership, which is a great way to get out. If you're honest, the state takes it over. They put a receiver in place. He goes out and pitches it. So we went out and pitched it. And Jerry Sportswear ended up buying it. It was Jerry, Rafi, and Dimitri. And then they also ended up buying Bombshell.
Okay.
Yeah. And anyway, so they packaged that all together and sold it off. And that is Mambosock 90 to 97.
Holy!
Yeah. But people love it. Like, I'll go around. I still make the hats with little logos and patches and stuff and old stuff. And people are like, whoa. Or I'm on the chairlift and they see my stickers on my board. They're like, either there's a rebirth or you're old,
You gave me a Mambosock embroidered blue mesh back hat.
Yeah.
That I wore as my fishing hat for so long that the mesh like detached from the back of it.
Did you catch any fish? Slayed it. Nice.
A few good ones for sure.
Good.
So, holy shit. Okay, so I gotta get a couple. I'm getting up towards the lodge on my snowmobile right now, so I gotta
Okay.
But wow, that's a hell of a story. How many employees did you have at its peak?
8 in-house, and then subcontracted another 100, sewers, seamstress, sewers. That same couple that built the first 1,000, Wayne and Ton, their business grew like crazy, and they became the kings of their village in Vietnam. And they were good friends of ours, and felt bad because with that whole ending thing, they got nixed out of maybe $4 or $5 grand. But yeah, and I think they might still be around.
Wow,
which makes me really happy.
And are you still friends with Dan?
Dan's a man. Dan is moving back to Oregon.
And I know Ted, you guys
Manzanita. Yeah,
you and Luke are still tight.
Yep.
You and Logic are still tight.
Yep. And it's didn't lose any friends, I'll tell you that much. So
except for Steve.
And I think except for Stephen Bauer. And I think I've gained some friends because of it too.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to take 10 runs and go to the Sun Bar at Bachelor, so you can always tell stories at Sun Bar.
Have you ever seen it again since you sold it to Jerry of the Day Sportswear?
So it got sold off to a trading house that did Dickies and Wrangler and all that.
Yeah.
And so they tried to run with it. They didn't do very well. They tried to make it like streetwear. It got picked up by a Japanese company, and they tried to rebrand it. Didn't work. One time at 4 a.m, the designer called me. Hello? And I'm like, hello? And he's like, this is Show. And I'm like, Show? He's like, Mambo? Show? Mambo? I'm like, Show? Mambo? I don't know what you mean. Mambosock? And I'm like, oh, he goes, I design. And I'm like, oh, you ever want to talk about it? Let me know, whatever. Okay, click.
That's it.
And so that didn't do well. And then crazy story on how I kind of briefly got the name back. But had some struggles, went back to the back of the line in the IP world. And then this kind of like crazy fan picked it up. He's out of Utah and he really won't give it back. So he can do whatever.
That's where he lives now.
Yeah. And I still make the patch hats and give them people and stuff, but I don't have any interest. Yeah. You know what? The story warms my heart as a wonderful part of my life. And, I think the value in it is that I can do this.
Sure.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. You only got a fraction of it.
Yeah, I know. If we were further in the bush, we'd go another hour for sure. So, what is your? So you were 23 when you started it. When was it over?
So it started in 90, over in 97.
7-year run.
7-year run.
What'd you do after?
Went into the. What did I do, man? Went into the tech thing, I think. Two .com bombs, and then I said, I'm going back to teaching because I had to quit teaching. I was about to get my teaching certificate when it blew up.
Oh, got you.
And had to pull out of that, and then I went back and
Wow.
yeah.
And maybe the lesson to be learned from Mambosock, if I was going to sum up this entire story, maybe it's look before you leap with partners.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, when opportunities present themselves, take a deeper look into it because, fun is fun, but life is life. And if you can make your life better, then maybe you jump on that. But be honest and make sure that you're having a lot of fun while you're doing it. Because I think then it becomes rewarding. What if it wasn't fun for us? I wouldn't be telling you the story, and I tell my classes the first 3 days of class, every class I teach, I tell the Mambosock story from beginning to end. And they're in, man.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
My second episode. That was sick. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. I love it.
All right, should we go shred some kind of powder right now?
Devil's
Nino?
backbone. Look at, I see he's waiting right there.
All right, we're going to do this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. That's fun.
All right, that was awesome.